Hi, I'm Jennifer with True North Leatherworks, and today I am here to show you how to put together my no-sew notebook kit. So let's get going on that. Okay, so here we have the no-sew notebook cover kit. All the materials that you need are included. So we have the elastic, the leather piece that will go on the elastic, a notebook, a blank notebook that will go into the notebook cover. We have a piece of leather for the cover with the holes pre-punched. And then in this bag, I won't take them, well, no, we'll take them out. Just try not to lose them. So, and this is actually for those of you who buy this, make sure you don't lose those little tiny jump rings. We do need those. So these little pieces we will use in making our notebook. Okay, so here we have our no-sew notebook cover. Pull all the pieces out of the bag. Okay, so we have our notebook, the leather that we'll use for our cover with holes already punched, elastic I'm going to straighten out. Okay. We have this bag with little bits that we will be using. And I'll leave these tiny pieces in the bag for now so they don't get lost. We'll pull them out as needed. And we also have this little piece of leather. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to start first by straightening out our elastic, and we're going to have it doubled over because we're going to use a double width of it. Okay, so you're going to double it up over here. We're going to pick up our cover. You can decide at this point, do you want this to be the front? Do you want this to be the front? Okay, so once you have your elastic folded in half, you have that little bend, and we are going to push that little bend through our bottom hole. We have two holes here. We're going to put it in the bottom one, and we're going to pull it most of the way out, and you can see that it is already uneven. So I am going to pull it. Your elastic will move a lot as you're doing this. Now, keeping it folded in half, we're going to take one of these silver beads and push the elastic through it. Now you could try to use both ends, the loose ends, but it's a lot easier to go through the holes if you're just pushing through that part as opposed to trying to get two ends of the elastic through it. So that's how I'm going to show you how to do it. Okay, once you have your silver bead on, then you're going to push your elastic through the hole. I'm going to pull it snugly, but at the same time make sure that this isn't pulling out. And here we can see, oops, oh, I haven't finished pulling it through. So as you go work back and forth, you just want to make sure that everything is snug. Okay, we will start out. So I've put the two ends of the elastic together. So I've got it folded in half now. I'm going to kind of pinch the fold over. Okay, so if you have a preference, decide now what will be the front or the back. I don't care. So I am just going to start on this one. This is the bottom. So I'm just pushing it through and then pulling it out. So I'm going to carefully do that while leaving several inches on this side. So then I'm going to open this up, my little baggie. I'm going to pull out one of the little silver beads and then pinch my elastic again and push it through. There's just enough rigidity to the elastic that you can just push it through like that. Then I'm going to pull it through. I'm going to grab onto my ends on the other side. Maybe about that. Okay, so then pinch it again, and we're going to push it through the next hole. This time going to the back side. Inside of it, I suppose, would be more accurate. Okay, so I'm going to pull my elastic. So that bead is going to keep it there. So now on the inside of the cover, we're going to go up to the next hole. We're going to push from the inside of the cover through that little hole. Now, if you have trouble getting the elastic through the hole, you could grab like a needle or a safety pin or something and kind of snag it on the end of the elastic. But you should be able to push it through. So that is snug. And now that I am through here, I am going to, so on this piece, I'm going to go in. Hold on, let me think about this. Okay. So I'm going to then grab my oval piece, little strip of leather, and I'm going to go through the first hole and then back out, kind of like sewing, but without a needle and without thread because it's elastic. It all works, right? Okay. So you can see I'm pulling the elastic. I'm trying to keep it as even as possible, but at the same time, there's going to be a lot of movement. So don't worry too much about it at this point. Once we get all the pieces together, then we'll worry about straightening everything out. Okay, so now we're coming to the trickiest part of this project. We are going to go back through this hole, which might look too small. So what I'm going to do, you can see I'm pulling right here and I'm pulling right here. And that gives me a little bit more space in that hole. And I'm going to poke it through. And see, I had just enough space to do that. Okay. Like I said, if you're having problems doing that, if it's just not going through the hole, then use the tip of a needle or a safety pin or something like that to snag on to part of the elastic, and that will help you pull it through the hole. Before I move on, I am going to just make a simple loop, kind of a knot there. That'll just help keep that center strap in place a little bit easier so it's not moving and loosening more than you want it to. And don't do it too tight. We'll come back and adjust this. So for now, it's just kind of loose, hanging out there. Actually, I think I'm going to loosen that a little bit more than that even. There we go. So like I said, we'll tighten that once we're a little bit further along. Okay, and then I'm going to go up to the hole in the middle, the next in line. I'm going to push my elastic through again. This is where it's helpful to have fingernails, and if not, pair of pliers or tweezers or even just a needle or safety pin will help you get a hold of that elastic. Okay, so now we've got it in the middle. So we are going to pull out our little strip here with the holes, and we're going to push it in through that one. And then we're on the back side now. We'll put it through the next hole. Take it out. It'll look like this. So then that hole. And this hole. And there you go. And that part's completed. Okay, we're going to keep that a little bit loose. Okay, so now we want to go back through here. So I am going to hang on to the elastic here and hang on to it here, and I'm pulling on the elastic. That makes it a little bit narrower and gives a little bit more room in that hole. Since we're trying to get the elastic through. Now, if you're not able to do that, it's just not working for you, ask a parent for help. Parent or somebody with the manual dexterity. There we go. We'll able to get that through. Push a little bit more. There we go. Okay. So I'm going to leave it looped around like this. We'll adjust it in a bit. And then, before I continue on, I am going to run a loop right through here. So I ran it through here, underneath, and then I'm going to come back up here. That's just going to make it a little bit harder for the for this to move around. You don't want it getting shorter when you or longer. It can still be adjusted, but not as easily. So now I am going to move up to this hole, and I'm going to push my elastic through and pull it through on the other side with my fingernails. And just like at the bottom, I'm going to put my silver bead onto the elastic. That one I was kind of screwing it on. I don't know if that really makes a difference, but in my mind it did. So that might be something to try if you're having problems. But the beads in the kit are the same ones that I'm using right here, so you shouldn't have too many problems. Okay, and then once I did that, I went through that other hole. So now on the front, it looks like this, and you can see that this has moved around a bit. We'll loosen this up, so don't worry too much about it. But I was just tugging on it, so now my knot's a little tighter than I want. So I'm going to loosen that back up now while I am thinking about it. Okay, and then we're going to continue up to those last two holes. We're going to go push through that one. You can do it. I feel like it's easier to push through the holes from the front than it is from the back, which makes sense because the holes are made on the front, not the back. And the hole punch is slightly tapered. So, okay. So if it doesn't work, just keep trying. Try again. Or you could also try going from the front. See, it went through right there. So I'm actually going to pull it, and then, so it's in here. I'm actually going to pull down, kind of try to stretch that hole out a little bit. And then now I'm going to go back through it. Maybe. Come on, you can do it. Okay, so it's just peeking out. There we go. Just being a little bit stubborn. Okay, so now we're out like this. We have a bead here, and so we're going to do the same thing on this side. So in our bag, we have another those little metal beads. And we are just going to thread it onto the elastic. Sometimes twisting seems to help. And there we go. Got just a little bit through. So we can pull. And there we go. We have this. Like I said, this will adjust in a few minutes. Now we're going to take this part that has the loop and we're going to bring it down here to the bottom where the two open sides are. And we're just going to tie a square knot. If you don't know how to tie a square knot, basically take your two ends, one goes around the other, and then you switch hands that hold it. So now my right hand is holding the piece that my left hand held, and vice versa. And then you're going to go around and pull it through, and it should look like this. Okay, and if you can loop it around like this, then you know you've got a square knot. If you're not familiar with the name square knot, you've perhaps heard it called a double knot, but this is basically what you want to do. And we want it to look like this. Now we are going to stop for a minute and pull out our notebook, and we are going to fit it into the elastic, and then wrap it around. And then here is where we're going to start checking on the fit of the elastic. So mine shortened up a lot. So I just pulled on it, and you can see that already these are tighter. Okay, now I do want to make sure that I'm keeping my knot at the bottom of the notebook. I don't want it to end up in the pages of my notebook. Okay, so if that starts happening, you're going to want to adjust where everything's sitting. Okay, so I've got a little bit of extra elastic there, so I'm actually going to pull on that bottom hole. And then I'm going to pull on the inside here while pushing on the bead. Okay, so now I've got some extra here. And this is why we didn't want to tighten up that knot, because that will allow us to shift this elastic around. Now, some of you may want the elastic to be tight, some may want it to be looser. So at this point, this is where you can decide, okay, I like it like this. Like for me, this looks good, so I am not going to tighten it any further. But if you wanted it tighter or looser, this has a little bit of give there. But I like where it's at, so I am just going to pull it a little bit snugger right there, but not too much, because then that'll end up pulling on my elastic. And I'm going to double check that I didn't pull it too tight. You could even pull a little bit right there, but if you see the knot starting to poke through, then you know you've pulled too tightly. You don't want your knot to pop out through that hole. So I'm actually going to pull it back a little bit. There we go. And then now I've got some extra looseness here at the upper portion. So just as on the bottom, I'm pulling the extra. And then moving the bead. And now I've got the loose right there. As I said before, this really is just trial and error and seeing how tightly you want everything to be. And right now I need to adjust it a little bit more because see, my knot is trying to go between my pages and I don't want that. So this part I do need to adjust. And it's tightened a little bit more than I would like, so I'm going to work at it with my fingernails. Okay. I'm going to make sure one last time that I like the fit. Okay, so I'm going to push that little ribbon out of the way. Here, you can see I've got my knot right there at the bottom. I've just got a single knot. Now I'm going to make it a double or square knot. I'm going to pull it fairly tight, but not super tight because you don't want to adjust how everything fits. We have two ends of our elastic, and through one of them, so we have these two little silver jump rings. Oops, actually we're going to put the cone through, and then the silver jump ring is going to go through just one of those. Okay, and then what we're going to do here, I'm pulling it at this point, but I'm also kind of pulling here because I don't want it to pull too tight. And I'm just going to wrap it around my finger and then push the ends through that part that was wrapped around my finger. And I'm going to pull that, and I want this one snug. This one is the end. So this jump ring is going to keep the knot from going through the hole at the end of the cone. It's just a little too big for the diameter of the elastic we're using. Okay, and so once I've got that tight, then I will grab my scissors that I should have had sitting out already, and I'm going to snip my loop. And we don't want to snip the loop until this step, just because it really is easier to go through those holes when it's still got a loop. So I put my cone through both pieces and my jump ring through one piece. Okay, and that will keep the cone from falling out. Now I do want my little cones to be about the same. They don't need to be exactly the same, but I don't want them too far off either. So my knot's there, so I'm going to go close to that. Oops, going for that square knot again. You could do a square knot, but I just feel that they come undone a little bit easier sometimes. And for this one, we don't want it to come undone, and we can pull it as tightly as we want. Okay, so I'm going to, pulling, there we go. Okay, so now we have our two little toggle things hanging out, but we have all this extra elastic. So I'm going to snip them with scissors. And here's the part where you do need some parental help. Okay, so now I need to get this end down to the bottom, but I feel like a little bit off kilter. So I'm going to go back and loosen things up and try to make it move the excess up to the top. So I want to keep this knot from getting too tight. Okay, so I want a little bit longer than that. Okay, so now I've got more there. So now just adjust that position. There we go. And pull that. Okay, so now that looks a lot better. So I'm going to take my notebook. And kind of see how tight you want that to be. Just make sure that you keep your knot. So we're going to tie another square knot here. Just make sure it's close to the leather because you don't want the knot to end up between your pages. Okay, so I've tied that knot. I'm going to double check real quick. This is where I want. Stick that inside here. And then okay, so I'm going to help the leather bend. Now it'll naturally do that more as you use it. Put it in your bag or your pocket or whatever. It needs a little help at the beginning. Okay, so straightening out the elastic, seeing how it's fitting. Okay, that feels good. The bead was a little wonky. Okay, so I like how it's fitting with the notebook. I'm going to move this out of the way again. And then the knot, I want it a little bit closer to the leather. So I am just going to, there we go. Pull that bead a little bit. Okay. Okay, so last step. Okay, so now we use okay, so you're first going to put your elastic through here, and then you're going for both of them, and then you're going to put the jump ring on just one of them. The jump ring will keep the knot that you're going to tie here in a minute from pulling out the other end of that cone. So I'm going to stretch this and wrap a circle. So this elastic is a little bit shorter than what I gave you guys. So it doesn't really want to do it, but yours should end up longer than mine did. Yeah, I don't think that's going to work. So I'm just going to tie a square knot, but it's probably going to come undone eventually. Like I said, you'll have longer ends here, and that will give you more flexibility. Okay. So I see that. Okay, and then I'm going to cut this loop because I need it open. Okay, and then I'm going to put both those pieces through the second cone. And then that second jump ring will go on one of them. It'll fit inside there. I'm going to tie another square knot. Okay, so now I've got those hanging out, so I'm going to trim those a little shorter. Take a lighter and just run it across there. Be careful, it is very hot. You don't want to burn yourself. And do not hold the flame on the elastic for too long or it will catch fire. And even just holding a little bit there, it smells, so be careful. So make sure you have proper parental supervision on that. I don't want to hear about any of you guys getting burned or otherwise hurt. Okay, so now we have our no-sew leather notebook cover. You can see that this leather has some marks here. It's got different things. And that is the beauty of leather, that every piece is a little bit different. Just as animals and people are different, so each piece of leather is different. Okay, so we have our elastic to keep it closed and the elastic to keep our notebook in place. And you even have a little loop to put your pen in there so you don't lose it. Okay, so here we have it finished. Now we do want to use the looping knot here as opposed to a square knot because the square knot works better when there's pressure or tension on both pieces, whereas here there's not because it's just kind of ending. Now if you don't like the ends of your elastic hanging out of your cones, you could trim them a bit shorter even. Just make sure you don't get too close to the knot or your knot will come apart. Okay. Remember, this is very hot, so don't touch it because I don't want you getting burned. And there you go. Be very careful with this part. Don't do this the way I'm doing it. There we go. Tuck that in. That's poking out too. So now make sure you don't cut too close to your knot or your knot will come undone completely. And then make sure you're not burning that or yourself or your leather. Lots of things to be not burning. Okay, so I'm going to want these dangly bits to be a smidgen longer. There we go. So I'm loosening up this knot so I can readjust. So this is just me wanting things a certain way. You totally don't have to do this. This is just, yeah. Okay, there we go. Okay, so I'm gonna just a little bit longer on that. Okay, so that was what I was looking for. Okay, so I'm going to tighten that. I've got it so they're a little bit different lengths. Now I just need to make sure that this part still fits. I'm going to pull this one so that it's up against the leather. That one does not want to stay. I don't think I cut that short enough. Remember, be super careful. Make sure you have appropriate adult supervision. And don't hurt yourself. Okay, there we go. Okay, so that does pull a little bit, but that's fine because you want it to be snug so that it holds your notebook in place. You don't want it to just fall out. Okay. Okay, and like I said, the more you fold it and carry it around like this, the more the crease will be there. Okay, there we go. We have our no-sew notebook cover finished, and this is something that you can change out notebooks and keep using for a long time because leather lasts a long time. Great job!